June 5th, 1944, south coast of England, 21:30 hours. A low ceiling of cloud presses down over the channel. Wind rattles signal flags. The tide charts are spread across tables inside wooden huts and concrete bunkers from Portsmouth to Plymouth. Outside, engines idle, thousands of them. Landing craft packed bow to stern, troop ships blacked out. No lights, no music, no speeches. Nearly 2 million Allied soldiers are now committed to movement orders that cannot explain why. Military police seal roads. British Home Guard units stand at junctions with fixed bayonets. Entire coastal towns are locked down. Soldiers are loaded onto ships by unit number alone. Most still believe the invasion will hit Pas-de-Calais. Others think Norway. A few think the Balkans. None are told the truth. Inside Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, maps are pinned so densely they overlap. Arrows point west, then stop. Final destination names are absent. Typed orders avoid beaches, avoid towns, avoid the word France. The deception is deliberate. If the weather window closes, this armada, over 5,000 vessels, must turn back. If German intelligence detects the truth, everything collapses before the first landing ramp drops. And at the center of this silence sits one man holding authority over every movement, every delay, every omission. The soldiers feel it. You can see it in the way they grip rifles they won't fire tonight, in the way officers read sealed envelopes they are forbidden to open yet. History often remembers the landings. But this story begins hours earlier, with a decision to send millions forward without telling them what they are truly being sent into. Dwight David Eisenhower did not sleep on the night of June 5th, 1944. At Southwick House, north of Portsmouth, the air inside the operations room is stale, with cigarette smoke and damp wool. The Great Wall map of Western Europe dominates the room, 6 meters across, its surface crowded with colored pins, naval, lanes, and arrows converging on a stretch of coastline that still cannot be spoken aloud. Eisenhower stands beneath it in his service uniform, hands clasped behind his back. No medals, no theatrics. Just a man carrying authority no Allied commander has ever held before. He is supreme commander. Every army, every navy, every air force, British, American, Canadian, Free French. And tonight, he is also the architect of the greatest lie ever told to soldiers who trust their commanders with their lives. For months, Eisenhower has approved a deception operation so vast it has its own army. First U.S. Army Group, a formation that does not exist. Inflatable tanks line fields in Kent. Fake landing craft sit in estuaries. Radio traffic pours out of phantom headquarters. German reconnaissance aircraft photograph exactly what Allied planners want them to see. Pas-de-Calais. The lie is working. German 15th Army remains anchored opposite Dover. Eisenhower knows this because Ultra decrypts top-secret intelligence from broken Enigma codes, confirm it daily. But Ultra is so sensitive that even many senior commanders cannot know it exists. So Eisenhower chooses silence. At 21:45, Group Captain James Stagg delivers the final weather report. The storm that has battered the channel is weakening, but only briefly. A narrow gap. Perhaps 36 hours. If Eisenhower delays, the next viable tide will not come for weeks. By then, German defenses will be reinforced. The deception may collapse. The war could drag on another year, or more. If he goes now, thousands may drown in heavy seas. Airborne units may scatter. Naval landings could fail. He listens. He asks questions. He steps outside into the night rain. In his pocket is a short statement typed in advance. It begins. Our landings in the Cherbourg-Havre area have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold. Eisenhower wrote it himself. It ends with him accepting the sole responsibility. This is not rhetoric. It is preparation for catastrophe. At 04:15, Eisenhower returns to the map room. He looks at Admiral Ramsey, Air Chief Marshal Lee Mallory, General Montgomery. Then he speaks. "Okay, let's go." Those 3 words, recorded later by multiple witnesses, released the largest coordinated movement of human beings in history. Within minutes, coded signals flash out across Britain. Engines revered as anchors lift. Convoys begin sliding into pre-assigned lanes, spaced with mathematical precision to avoid collision in darkness. Yet Eisenhower's decision carries an unspoken consequence: to preserve the deception, to protect Ultra, to keep German reserves frozen in the wrong place. Millions of soldiers must move without knowing the truth. Even now, many assault troops believe Calais is still the real target. Airborne units are told only grid references. Naval crews receive sealed packets marked not to be opened until at sea. Eisenhower understands the cost of this silence. But he also understands something else. If the truth is revealed too early, the war could be lost before dawn. Midnight passes. June 6th begins without announcement. Across southern England, the movement becomes unstoppable. Convoys slip from harbors in exact sequence. First minesweepers, then destroyers. Then the long, vulnerable lines of troop transports and landing ships. Each follows a lane cut through the channel by British sweepers working hours ahead, clearing German mines in silence. The lanes are narrow. A single error could ripple into catastrophe. On board, soldiers crowd the rails. Many are seasick. Others stare into black water, trying to make sense of what their officers still cannot tell them. Maps are issued, but they are incomplete. Beach names are missing. Coastal towns are masked with code letters. Distances are given without orientation. In some briefings, instructors physically cover sections of charts with their hands. This is not incompetence. It is policy. Eisenhower has ordered that no soldier, sailor, or airman learns the full truth unless absolutely necessary. The fewer who know, the less that can leak. Through a captured patrol, a drifting lifeboat, a downed aircraft. German intelligence has informants in Britain. Eisenhower knows this. MI5 knows it too. Operation Fortitude depends on discipline more than imagination, so the maps lie by omission. Meanwhile, above the channel, the air war has already begun. At 0016, British paratroopers of the 6th Airborne Division land east of the Orne River. Their mission is surgically precise: seize bridges, block German armor, hold ground until dawn. Many miss their drop zones. The wind scatters aircraft. Anti-aircraft fire punches holes in formations. Some paratroopers drown under the weight of their gear before firing a shot. They have no idea they are the eastern anchor of the invasion. They only know their orders are real, and the darkness is hostile. Westward, American airborne units face worse. The U.S. 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions drop into the Cotentin Peninsula, tasked with sealing off the base of the Normandy beaches. Planes arrive too low, too fast, under fire. Pathfinders fail to mark zones accurately. Men land in flooded fields deliberately created by the Germans. Some drown tangled in parachutes. Units fragment into squads, into pairs, into individuals. One American paratrooper later writes in his diary that night, "Felt like falling into the wrong war." And still, no one has been told the whole truth. Back in Britain, the deception continues even as the real invasion unfolds. Fake radio traffic intensifies in Kent. Dummy headquarters send messages referencing non-existent troop movements. The Phantom 1st U.S. Army Group appears to be preparing, still, for Calais. German intercept stations hear exactly what Eisenhower wants them to hear. At German High Command, reports are confused. Some field officers suspect Normandy, others dismiss it as a diversion. Hitler himself remains convinced the main blow is coming later, and farther north. That belief will hold German panzer divisions in place for crucial days, but Eisenhower cannot know that yet. At Southwick House, Skjars Scouts he watches reports arrive in fragments, airborne landings incomplete, scattered, unclear. Naval commanders report rising seas. Timetables compress. The maps on the wall are still unfinished stories, and across the channel, tens of thousands of soldiers are moving toward beaches whose names they will learn only when the ramps drop, if they survive long enough to hear them. Dawn breaks unevenly over the Normandy coast. At 0530 hours, the horizon begins to glow, but not with sunrise alone. Naval gunfire lights the channel in rhythmic flashes. Battleships HMS Warspite and USS Nevada fire broadsides from miles offshore. The concussion rolls back across the water, rattling steel decks, and the bones of men who still do not know the full plan. For many of them, this is the first moment the truth becomes unavoidable. As landing craft turn toward shore, officers finally open sealed packets. Beach names appear for the first time: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, Sword. Some men have never heard them before. There is no speech, no time. The ramps are minutes from dropping. At Omaha Beach, the cost of secrecy collides with reality almost immediately. German defenses here are far stronger than Allied planners believed. The deception that held panzer divisions away has also limited reconnaissance. Eisenhower accepted that risk knowingly. Ultra could not reveal everything without revealing itself. As a result, assault troops land under direct fire from intact bunkers and enfilading machine guns. The tide is rising. Obstacles tear open landing craft. Men spill into water over their heads, weighed down by packs designed for marches inland that may never happen. Officers are killed before issuing orders. Units disintegrate, radios drown. No one here is thinking about deception strategies or intelligence coups. They are thinking about cover that does not exist. By mid-morning, casualties at Omaha reach catastrophic levels. Some companies lose over 50% of their men in minutes. For a time, the landing appears on the brink of failure. Eisenhower does not see the beach. He sees reports, fragmentary, delayed, incomplete. At Southwick House, pins begin to wobble. The map that once represented control now represents uncertainty. Admiral Ramsey considers pulling forces back. General Bradley later recalls fearing evacuation. Eisenhower listens, and he does not countermand. This restraint matters. At Utah Beach, conditions are different. Strong currents push American forces south of their intended landing zones by nearly 2,000 yards, but the sector is lightly defended. Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt Jr., landing with the first wave, famously says, "We'll start the war from right here." The quote is documented. The decision is real. Utah succeeds in part because the Germans never expected it to matter. That, too, is deception, paying off. Across the British and Canadian beaches, the contrast is stark. British forces, exhausted by nearly 5 years of war, advance methodically under heavy fire. Their officers worry constantly about ammunition expenditure, fuel consumption, and space on the beaches. Britain cannot afford waste. Canadian troops at Juneau push inland faster than planned, but at a cost. Urban fighting in coastal towns slows momentum. Snipers and hidden guns extract a price. Meanwhile, American abundance begins to reveal itself. Offshore, floating docks, Mulberry harbors, are already being assembled. Prefabricated causeways roll out like steel carpets. Trucks arrive in numbers the British still find startling. The VS is visible without explanation. Britain counts, America replaces, yet all of it depends on one fragile truth remaining hidden. German command still believes Normandy may be a diversion. Throughout June 6th, German 15th Army, the strongest force in the West, does not move. Its armored divisions remain near Calais, waiting for a second landing that never comes. This delay is not accidental. It is the result of months of silence enforced by Eisenhower's authority. But that silence carries human cost. Many soldiers who die on June 6 do so without ever understanding the scale of what they are part of. They do not know this is the hinge of the European war. They do not know reserves are frozen elsewhere. They only know the orders they received and the ground in front of them. By nightfall, the Allies hold a foothold, not a victory, a grip. Eisenhower issues no proclamation. He issues reinforcements. The truth will come later. For now, the lie must hold, even as millions are already fighting inside its consequences. June stretches on. The beaches fade behind hedgerows, villages, and fields divided by ancient earth banks that favor the defender. Normandy becomes a maze of green walls and unseen killing zones. And still, the truth is not fully told. For the soldiers fighting inland, the war no longer feels like a grand invasion. It feels confused, grinding, and far slower than promised. Units advance hundreds of yards at the cost of dozens of lives. Progress is measured in fields, not towns. Morale begins to strain. American infantrymen expecting a breakout instead face German units that refuse to collapse. British troops, veterans of North Africa and Italy, recognize the pattern immediately. This is attrition. This will take time Britain can barely afford. Behind the lines, the deception continues at full volume. Fake radio traffic from southeastern England does not slow. It intensifies. Eisenhower personally authorizes continued reinforcement of the Phantom 1st U.S. Army Group. Dummy landing craft remain visible from the air. Inflatable tanks are repositioned to suggest ongoing preparation. The message to German intelligence is deliberate and constant. Normandy is not the main effort. Hitler believes it. On June 7th, he issues orders that no major armored movement toward Normandy is to occur without his direct approval. That approval does not come quickly. German commanders argue, some plead, others hesitate, trapped by contradictory intelligence. Ultra intercepts reveal their confusion. But Eisenhower cannot act on that knowledge openly, so the silence deepens. For the men in Normandy, this has consequences. German divisions that do arrive, such as the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend, are among the most ideologically driven and tactically aggressive units in the German army. They counterattack repeatedly, often at night. They use the terrain expertly. They inflict heavy casualties. British and Canadian forces around Caen are pinned for weeks. The city that planners hope to seize on day one does not fall until July. Montgomery's plan, deliberately drawing German armor onto British positions to allow an American breakout elsewhere, is real. It is documented. It is intentional. But most soldiers do not know this. They only know they are being ordered forward again and again into ground that does not seem to matter. American units west of Carentan face similar strain. The bocage neutralizes numerical advantage. Tanks struggle. Supply lines clog. Progress slows to a crawl, measured in yards per day. Behind the scenes, Eisenhower's burden grows heavier. Casualty reports arrive daily. Thousands killed. Tens of thousands wounded. Replacement rates begin to matter. Hospital ships cross the channel in the opposite direction, carrying men who left Britain believing one thing and learned another. Eisenhower writes to General George Marshall on June 15th, acknowledging the strain and the uncertainty. His tone is factual, restrained. No bravado. No promises. The deception is still essential. German 15th Army remains in place near Calais until late July. Some units never move at all. Even after Normandy is undeniable, German command continues to expect a second, larger landing. That belief saves lives in Normandy, and costs lives there too. Because as long as the truth is hidden from the enemy, it is also hidden from the men paying its price. The psychological toll becomes visible. Letters home describe confusion more than fear. Soldiers ask why progress is slow, why resistance is so fierce, why objectives change without explanation. Officers bound by secrecy cannot answer honestly. Eisenhower knows this tension cannot last forever. The lie has done its work, but it has also created a dangerous gap between command and those who execute its decisions. By late July, American forces prepare for Operation Cobra, the breakout that will finally shatter German lines. This time, the truth will not need protection. When Cobra begins, it will be impossible to hide what is happening. The silence that protected the invasion is about to become unnecessary, and for some, unforgivable. July 25, 1944. Near St. Lo. Midday. The sky over Normandy fills with aircraft, hundreds of them. American heavy bombers arrive in tight formations, sunlight flashing off aluminum wings. This is not secrecy anymore. This is revelation. Operation Cobra begins with a bombardment so massive it reshapes the battlefield. Bombs fall in precise grids. The earth heaves. German defensive lines disintegrate under concentrated force. For the first time since June 6th, there is no need to pretend. This is the breakout. This is the main effort. This is the truth made visible. American armored divisions surge forward into gaps that finally exist. The bocage is breached. Resistance collapses unevenly. Then, suddenly, German units begin retreating, not maneuvering, not counterattacking, but fleeing. The war changes speed. Within days, Allied forces are advancing miles instead of yards. German command realizes, too late, that Normandy was not a diversion. It was the war. German 15th Army near Calais finally begins to move. But it is irrelevant now. The window is closed. The lie has already done its work. For Eisenhower, the burden lifts, but it does not disappear. In a letter written later reflecting on the invasion, he does not celebrate deception as cleverness. He frames it as necessity. The cost was real. The silence was intentional. The responsibility was his. The soldiers finally understand what they have been part of, not through briefings, but through movement, through collapsing enemy lines, through maps that now make sense. They were not misled for convenience. They were withheld from the truth for survival. Millions fought without knowing the full picture, because knowing it too early could have destroyed it. The invasion of Western Europe succeeds not just because of bravery or industry, but because one man accepted that truth could be as dangerous as failure. History remembers June 6th, but victory was decided in the weeks that followed, when the lie held long enough for the truth to arrive in force.